Zyriel Tharn moved through the crystalline corridors of the vaulted repository in silence. The light above him was sterile, refracted through millions of data prisms embedded into the structure's bones. To outsiders, it resembled a cathedral made of ice. To Zyriel, it was a graveyard of memory, most of it intentionally buried. He approached Subsector 19A, a restricted wing layered in magnetic shielding and encrypted neurolocks. His clearance shouldn't have granted access. It did now. He had rewritten a single line of code. Not to steal. Not to defy. Simply to see. The terminal rose from the floor as he approached, a smooth obsidian plate humming with ancient power. He pressed 2 fingertips against the input field. The interface pulsed, blinked red, then gave a quiet chime of reluctant permission. Zyriel hesitated only once before speaking. Query. Cross-reference. Species designation. Homo sapiens. The system sputtered. A flicker of resistance. Then, reluctantly, a shard of data surfaced. File ID, HSAUR 4723 Omega. A broken archive, flagged under Omega Black Protocol. Anything tagged Omega Black was meant to be erased, not read. He leaned forward, drawn in. Play audio fragment, he ordered softly. A burst of static filled the chamber, followed by a voice. It was nothing like the Concord dialects, raw, sharp, distinctly human. If you're hearing this, we failed. But we made damn sure the galaxy remembers we existed. The voice cracked but continued, alive with something Zyriel couldn't name. We left behind monuments, not because we wanted worship, but warning. We loved too hard. We fought too hard. We broke too much. But we never stopped feeling. That's what made us dangerous. And beautiful. Zyriel blinked. Something stirred in his chest. The speaker's voice carried weight, not through volume, but conviction. The message ended abruptly, followed by a data string, coordinates. A system long purged from the central star maps. He recognized it only because he once catalogued a destroyed probe launched there. A failed Concord mission. Marked as an uninhabitable zone. He copied the string into his neural cache. That was the mistake. The lights around him flickered. Unauthorized access detected. A machine voice rang out. Security clearance breach logged. Zyriel's heart skipped. He slammed his hand on the interface, shut the stream, wiped the buffer, and disconnected. But it was too late. Omega-class activity flagged automatic alerts to Central Authority. That meant the Security Commission. A message blinked into his neural HUD. This is Commander Elik Voris. Archive Custodian Tharn, you are ordered to suspend operations and await immediate debriefing. Zyriel stared at the words. No threats. No accusations. Just a request to await. He tapped the HUD twice. The message vanished. He was already moving. Inside his quarters, Zyriel packed fast. No luggage, only what he could hide in his memory thread and field suit. He inserted the crystal fragment into a cloak storage module strapped to his back. The rest he wiped clean. No traces. No hesitation. He didn't know exactly why he ran. Maybe it was the voice. Or the emotion in it. Or maybe it was how the Concord had reacted, not with curiosity, but fear. Omega-level fear. Humans were a myth now, a cautionary tale whispered among scholars and the old. But myths didn't leave coordinates. He accessed the hangar under a forged mission ID. The attendant, a young Kithian, didn't even glance at him. Zyriel nodded and entered the cockpit of a small research shuttle, an unremarkable vessel meant for asteroid surveys. He launched without clearance, burned thrusters hard, and jumped to subspace lanes. The system he aimed for, DR2, codenamed Geneva's Wake, lay near the edge of the known stars. If anything remained of the human legacy, it would be there. As the stars blurred around him, he activated a private audio loop. The recording played again. The voice, still haunting, still alive. They'll come for you. They always do. But listen, and remember this, we didn't survive because we were the strongest. We survived because we never forgot how to dream, even when it hurt. Time stretched thin in subspace. Zyriel didn't sleep. He studied the fragment, slowing the waveform, analyzing its patterns. The voice was male, aged, but the file was clean. Unedited. Authentic. That fact alone chilled him. Humans weren't just extinct. They were erased, not by war, but by consensus. The Concord agreed their species was too volatile, too creative, too independent. It was easier to say they destroyed themselves than admit they couldn't be controlled. Now he had proof they hadn't been destroyed at all. Zyriel checked the sensors. A long-range ping flickered on the edge of the system. A Concord vessel. They were tracking him. He shut down all transmissions, coasted dark through the outer rim of Geneva's wake. The planet below, once marked Terra Altus, was a scorched sphere wrapped in orbital wreckage. Dead from a distance? But there was something moving inside the ruins. The shuttle landed on a fractured plateau, heat shielding hissing against the cracked soil. Zyriel stepped out, breathing through his filtration mask. The air was metallic. Silent. The entrance to the old colony appeared as a fissure in the rock. Obvious only if you knew where to look. He used the fragment to unlock the magnetic field. A low hum welcomed him. Inside, darkness, and then flickers of blue light from embedded circuits long dormant. Zyriel descended. As he reached the core vault, his neural HUD lit up with a single line. Human life form detected. Stasis integrity stable. His breath caught. There was someone alive down here. The stasis pod stood upright in the center of the chamber, surrounded by a field of shattered data crystals, memory units designed to resist time. The man inside looked ancient though preserved, his beard gray, his skin pale, his body marked with old scars. But his eyes were closed. Sleeping. Zyriel stepped forward, slow, reverent. He reached for the control pad. The chamber lights dimmed. A sound rang out through the facility, distant, echoing, growing louder. Engines. Concord engines. They had arrived. Zyriel looked from the pod to the crystal in his hand, then to the ceiling trembling above him. He had minutes, maybe less. The voice echoed again in his mind. If you're hearing this, you're the last chance. His fingers flew over the interface. As the door behind him blew open, as the light of Vorus's strike team filled the corridor, the stasis pod unlocked with a hiss. And the human opened his eyes. The human's eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then locked onto Zyriel with unsettling clarity. They were unlike any eyes Zyriel had ever seen, deep, knowing, tired. Not just from sleep, but from memory. Name, the human rasped. Zyriel hesitated. Zyriel Tharn. Archive custodian of the Tricoth Dominion. The man exhaled. Tricoth. You're a long way from your librarians. Above them, metal screamed. The upper corridors vibrated under the force of cutting torches and kinetic bursts. Concord security was breaching the ruins. We don't have time, Zyriel said. They're coming for both of us. The human nodded once. Let them. They've always come. But this time, someone listens first. Zyriel offered a hand. The man ignored it and rose on his own, joints cracking after centuries in stasis. He was tall, broader than any species in the Concord, a relic of muscle and scar tissue. Yet something in his posture was restrained, deliberate. Who are you? Zyriel asked. Elias Monroe, he said. General. Earth Defense Command. Last of the HELIX initiative. He rubbed the back of his neck. Probably. More explosions rocked the ruin. Light poured through the entrance behind them. Come with me, Zyriel urged. There's a secondary exit through the vault shaft. I mapped it on entry. Elias didn't move. He walked toward a sealed alcove and brushed his fingers across its scorched emblem, a flag split in half, a stylized E at the center. This was the final colony, Elias murmured. We chose to burn it. Not the enemy. Us. Zyriel frowned. Why? Elias turned, expression unreadable. Because we couldn't let the Concorde take what we became. Another explosion. Zyrio pulled out the archive crystal and slotted it into his wrist module. Elias's gaze followed the motion. You activated it, didn't you? He asked. I heard your message. Elias let out a breath, a sound between relief and resignation. Then you know the truth. I know something survived, Zyriel said. But I don't understand why you disappeared. Why the Concorde labeled your kind a threat. You don't need to understand, Elias said. Not yet. You need to survive. A loud hiss cracked the silence. The vault door buckled. Concorde troops poured into the chamber, sleek armor, polarized visors, rifles humming with restrained fields. Commander Voris stepped forward, tall and severe in his jet-black command suit, the Concorde insignia glowing red across his chest. Step away from the anomaly, Voris commanded, voice sharp as broken glass. Zyrio raised his hands instinctively. He's not a threat. Voris cut him off. You accessed a forbidden archive, violated Omega-class quarantine, stole a vessel, and led us to an unstable legacy species. Every decision you've made screams threat. Then why not erase me? Zyriel shot back. Why follow me instead of vaporizing me in orbit? Because we hoped you'd lead us to it, Boris said coldly. Now step aside. Elias stepped between them. You don't want this fight, he warned. Boris sneered. You're a ghost. A remnant. Your history. Elias moved slowly, arms down. You think so? You ever hear of Operation Sundial? Boris didn't answer. Elias looked to Zyriel. They never tell their children. They suppress it. All of it. You don't understand what we gave up. Zyriel took a step back. What did you give up? Elias held his gaze. Everything. Voris raised his sidearm. In a blink, Elias surged forward. But not to fight. He knelt, hands behind his head. Take me. Voris didn't hesitate. Two soldiers slammed restraints over Elias's wrists and hauled him up. Elias didn't resist. He only looked at Zyriel. You still have it, Elias said softly. The full archive. It's in you now. Carry it. When the time comes, use it. Zyriel stepped toward him, but Voris blocked his path. You're coming with us, the commander growled. No, Elias said, suddenly hard. He walks. Or I break every bone in your command crew. Voris's jaw twitched, but he didn't call the bluff. He knew. There were legends of what humans could do. A single one had collapsed a Drex battleship without weapons. Another led a rebellion of 30 worlds by sheer will. Zyriel stared between them, then turned and ran. Voris shouted, but no fire followed. Either Elias's threat worked, or Voris was betting Zyriel wouldn't live long with what he now carried. Zyriel sprinted through the ruins, lungs burning, HUD flickering with warnings. He took a half-collapsed shaft to the surface, crawled through heat-scored metal, and emerged into the dusky light of Geneva's wake. His shuttle was still intact, half buried under debris, but functional. As he strapped in and powered the engines, the voice returned, not live, but embedded deep in his neural cache. A final message from Elias, triggered by proximity. If you're seeing this, I'm gone. But I meant what I said. The truth is heavy. It will cost you. But someone has to carry it. Our story isn't one of conquest or destruction. It's one of sacrifice. We stepped back, not because we lost, but because we chose peace over empire. The shuttle rose. Zyriel didn't look back. Stars unfolded ahead of him, and with them, something colder, silence. No Concorde ships pursued. Which meant only one thing: Voris wanted him to run. He checked his neural data core. The archive was whole now. But Elias's words weren't what lingered. It was the tone. The way he'd spoken. Without hate. Without fear. A creature made for war, choosing surrender. Zyriel didn't understand it yet. But he would. And the galaxy would follow. Zyriel drifted in deep space, the stars distant, cold, and silent. The shuttle's main power was offline, its hull scorched from atmospheric re-entry and orbital escape. Systems flickered in low-energy mode, enough to breathe and think, and that was all he needed. In his neurocache, the full archive pulsed like a heartbeat. He hadn't reviewed it all yet. Not because he couldn't, but because he didn't know what it might change. Every time he closed his eyes, Elias's voice returned, not just the words, but the weight behind them. He sat still in the dark, and finally spoke to the silence. Playback. Archive file, Elias Monroe. Final entry. A shimmer flickered across the glass interface before him. The recording opened, not in violence, but in music. A low, resonant sound, stringed, slow, deliberate. It bled emotion into the cabin. No translation needed. The instruments cried in a way Zyriel had no words for. Then Elias's voice layered over it. If you've come this far, you've already made a choice. So I won't waste time with apologies or warnings. You deserve the truth. Not the version they filed away, not the story buried under 10 layers of classification. The real one. Zyriel leaned forward. We didn't die in fire. We chose silence. The Concorde didn't destroy us. We left. The recording faded into static, then picked up again, fragments of video, text overlays, logs from Earth's final decade. A planet at war, not with aliens, but itself. Political collapse. Climate ruin. Then, a decision, forced unity. Elias again. We saw what we were becoming. We were making weapons no one should wield. Rewriting biology, fusing minds with machines, folding time on instinct. We were becoming something the galaxy couldn't contain. So we stopped. A flash of visuals, ships launching, colonies going dark, encryption pulses silencing entire systems. We scattered. We buried ourselves. Not because we feared the Concorde, but because we feared what we'd do to it. Zyriel closed his eyes. The logic was clear. The fear was real. A species so capable of creation they'd rewritten death, who then chose to vanish rather than dominate. But now, one had awakened. And the others might follow. His neural HUD pinged. Incoming message. Origin, unregistered transceiver, deep Concorde relay hub. Encryption military tier. Message body. Surrender the archive. You are not beyond our reach. This is your final chance. Commander Elik Voris. Zyriel stared at the words. No threat of death. No fleet. Just pressure. They knew force hadn't worked. Now they wanted fear. He replied with a single file, Elias Monroe, public testimony package. Then, with trembling fingers, he activated the broad-spectrum galactic uplink. To all free systems, sovereign minds, and sentient worlds, this is Zyriel Tharn, custodian of the Trikoth archives. I bring a message buried in silence for over 2 centuries. A voice that speaks not of war, but warning, and of who we once feared more than anything, humans. He uploaded the file to every major network in the Concorde, across subspace pulses, civilian nets, diplomatic relays. He flooded the galaxy with the truth. The archive, Elias's voice, Earth's fall, humanity's retreat, spread in moments. Then Zyriel shut everything down. He abandoned the shuttle on the edge of an asteroid field and ejected in a life pod. Cloaked. Untraceable. 2 standard weeks passed. He resurfaced on a forgotten moon station used by smugglers and refugees. There were no official broadcasts, no news feeds in the open. But whispers reached even the lowest levels. Some said it was a hoax. Others, a banned work of fiction. But in the shadows, Zyriel saw something worse than panic. Hope. Cultures long ruled by Concorde law now asked questions. If they survived, where are they? If they chose peace, why did we fear them? Can we be like them? And others whispered a more dangerous thought. What if they come back? It was in a gravity-warped bar carved into a frozen cliff that Zyriel saw the next sign. A small crowd gathered around a smuggler's portable projector, watching Elias's recording again, this time, translated into 8 languages. None spoke. A few wept. A voice beside him muttered, "He doesn't sound like a killer." Zyriel didn't answer. He watched the scene of Earth's skies burning, of cities left empty by choice, not war. "We left because we could. Because restraint is harder than conquest." Elias's words haunted him. Hours later, Zyriel climbed the station's outer ring and stood alone under an artificial sky. Above him, stars flickered, old and distant, but unchanged. A voice behind him. "You sent it." Zyriel turned. Voris stood at the edge of the platform, no armor, no weapon, just the cold fury in his eyes. "You condemned entire sectors to fear. Chaos. You think the truth sets them free?" "No," Zyriel said. "But lies only delay collapse." Voris stepped closer. "You think the humans were noble? They're predators. Builders of beautiful things, yes, but destroyers too. You've set the galaxy on fire." Zyriel held his ground. "They didn't start it. You did. When you buried them. When you tried to erase their name. You created the fear." Voris raised a small device. "I can end you right now." "You already lost," Zyriel said. The moment Elias opened his eyes. A pause. Then Voris lowered the device. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "Not today. But one day, when the humans return. And they will." He walked away. Zyriel stood alone. Some time later, he found a quiet place in the station's observatory, surrounded by relics of old telescopes and half-functioning consoles. He tuned into a forgotten human frequency, one buried in the archive's metadata. White noise. Then static. Then music. A song, recorded centuries ago. A human voice singing of stars, of time, of endings and beginnings. No subtitles. No data packets. Just emotion. And Zyriel sat there, listening. Not as an archivist. Not as a fugitive. But as someone who had seen the flame behind the myth, and knew now it wasn't gone. It was only waiting.